The rise and fall of Rome. Introduction. The birth of a legend. Rome did not begin as an empire. It did not begin as a republic. It did not even begin as a city. According to legend, Rome began with two abandoned twins, Romulus and Remus, left to die on the banks of the Tiber River, raised by a she-wolf. They grew to manhood and decided to found a city, but they quarreled over where it should be built and who should rule it. In rage, Romulus killed his brother Remus in 753 BC. Romulus founded a small settlement on 7 hills in central Italy. Hills that would become the heart of an empire. At first, Rome was nothing special, just a village of farmers and shepherds, surrounded by stronger neighbors, the sophisticated Etruscans to the north and Greek colonies to the south. But this ordinary beginning was the foundation of one of history's greatest empires, the Kingdom Era, and the birth of the Republic. For nearly 250 years, Rome was ruled by 7 kings. They fortified the city, built temples to Jupiter, Mars, and Vesta, and created the Forum. The Etruscans taught Romans to build with stone and organize armies in new ways. But the last king, Tarquin the Proud, was so tyrannical that in 509 BC, the Romans overthrew him and swore an oath: never again would Rome be ruled by a king. The very word rex, king, became the worst insult. Thus, the Roman Republic was born. Instead of kings, Rome would be governed by 2 elected consuls serving 1 year each. Power belonged to a system of checks and balances. The patricians, wealthy aristocrats, initially dominated, while the plebeians, common people, had little power. This sparked the conflict of the orders. In 494 BC, plebeians literally left the city and refused military service until their grievances were addressed. Gradually, they gained rights. The 12 Tables codified laws, and for 50 BC, marriages between classes became legal, and plebeians could hold all offices. By 287 BC, Rome had become remarkably egalitarian, at least for citizens. But while Rome debated internally, it also conquered. The conquest of Italy. Step by step, Rome unified Italy through warfare and brilliant diplomacy. Rome fought the Etruscans, Latin cities, Samnites, and Greek colonies. Each victory strengthened Rome, not just through territory but through integration. Rome's secret was flexibility in treating conquered peoples. Some received full citizenship, others Latin rights. Still others became allies, providing troops while governing themselves. This created a loyalty network across Italy. When Rome was threatened, these allies had stakes in its survival. By the early 3rd century BC, Rome controlled most of Italy from the Po River to the south. It was no longer just a city-state, but a power ready to challenge anyone in the Mediterranean. Then came Carthage, the Punic Wars, survival and dominance. Carthage was a wealthy Phoenician empire based in North Africa, controlling the western Mediterranean with the world's most powerful navy. Conflict was inevitable. The First Punic War to 641 BC** began over Sicily. Rome, a land power with barely any navy, built hundreds of warships based on a captured Carthaginian vessel. They invented the corvus, a boarding bridge turning naval battles into land battles. After 23 years, Rome won. Sicily became its first overseas province. But Carthage wasn't finished. The Second Punic War to 1801 BC** nearly destroyed Rome. Hannibal Barka, one of history's greatest generals, marched his army, including 37 war elephants, from Spain over the Alps into Italy. The crossing was brutal, but Hannibal made it through. For 15 years, Hannibal campaigned on Roman soil, crushing armies repeatedly. At Cannae to 16 BC, he destroyed Rome's largest army ever, fielded perhaps 80,000 men. Using brilliant double envelopment, Hannibal surrounded and slaughtered 0 to 70,000 Romans in a single day. Panic spread. Allies defected. It seemed like the end. But Rome refused to surrender. This defined Roman character. Despite catastrophic losses, Romans raised new armies, developed new strategies, harassed Hannibal's supply lines, and waited. Then Scipio Africanus proposed attacking Carthage itself. He invaded North Africa, forcing Hannibal's recall. At Zama in 100 BC, Scipio defeated Hannibal, his first and only defeat. The war was over, The Third Punic War 1 for 6 BC was almost an afterthought. Carthage posed no threat, but Senator Cato ended every speech with Carthago delenda estate. Carthage must be destroyed. Rome found a pretext, besieged the city, killed or enslaved the entire population, razed it to the ground, and allegedly sowed salt into the earth. Carthage was erased. Rome was now the dominant Mediterranean power. Mediterranean conquest and Julius Caesar over the centuries. Rome expanded relentlessly. It crushed Macedonia, occupied Greece, which culturally conquered Rome in return, dismantled the Seleucid Empire, conquered Hispania and North Africa. The fertile Carthaginian lands became Rome's breadbasket. By the 1st century BC, the Republic showed serious cracks. Rome controlled vast territories, but the old system wasn't designed to govern an empire. Provincial governors became incredibly powerful. The army changed from citizen farmers to professional soldiers more loyal to their generals than to the Republic. This created warlords. Julius Caesar stepped into this instability. Brilliant as general, politician, writer, and speaker, Caesar was also boundlessly ambitious. In 60 BC, he formed the first triumvirate with Pompey and Crassus, dominating Roman politics. In 58 BC, Caesar conquered Gaul in 8 years of relentless warfare. He crossed the Rhine twice, led expeditions to Britain, and became incredibly wealthy and famous. His commentaries became bestsellers. Millions of Gauls were killed or enslaved, but Gaul became Roman. The Senate feared him. Pompey turned against him. They wanted Caesar to disband his army and return as a private citizen, where he could be prosecuted. Caesar knew this meant political destruction or death. So in 49 BC, he crossed the Rubicon River with his army. Treason. Alia iacta estate, he said. The die is cast. Civil war began. Caesar seized Italy, pursued Pompey to Greece, and crushed him at Pharsalus in 48 BC. Pompey fled to Egypt and was murdered. Caesar went to Egypt, sided with Cleopatra in a civil war, made her queen, and had an affair with her. By 44 BC, Caesar was dictator for life, receiving divine honors. Some say he wanted to be king. On the Ides of March 15th, 44 BC, senators calling themselves liberators surrounded Caesar and stabbed him 23 times. They believed they were saving the Republic. They were wrong. They had killed it. Augustus and the Roman Empire. Caesar's death brought more civil wars. Mark Antony and Caesar's adopted heir Octavian initially cooperated, crushing the assassins at Philippi in 40 BC. Then they turned on each other. Antony went east, fell in love with Cleopatra, and dreamed of an Eastern empire. Octavian stayed in Italy, presenting himself as defender of traditional values. At Actium in 31 BC, Octavian's fleet defeated Antony and Cleopatra, who fled to Egypt and committed suicide. Octavian, at 32, was sole ruler of the Roman world. But Octavian was smarter than Caesar. He knew Romans hated kings. In 27 BC, he offered to restore the Republic. The Senate begged him to stay and showered him with honors. He took the name Augustus, the revered one. He called himself Princeps, first citizen, first among equals, not king, not dictator, but he was Rome's first emperor. Augustus preserved republican institutions. The Senate still met. Consuls were elected, but real power was his. He controlled the army, treasury, and foreign policy. The Republic was dead, but Augustus created something new, the Roman Empire, a system lasting centuries. Pax Romana, the golden age under Augustus and successors. Rome entered the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, for nearly 200 years, 27 BC to 180 AD. The empire's interior was peaceful and prosperous. Trade flourished. Goods from India and China came west via the Silk Road. Spanish silver, Egyptian grain, Greek wine, African olive oil moved freely on roads and sea lanes protected by Roman soldiers. Roman roads connected continents straight, well-drained, built to last. Many are still used today. All roads lead to Rome was literally true. Cities grew on the Roman model with forums, temples, bathhouses, theaters, and amphitheaters. Roman urban planning spread everywhere. Roman law became systematic and sophisticated. Innocent until proven guilty is Roman. So is legal precedent. Roman architecture revolutionized building. They perfected the arch, vault, and dome. They invented concrete, allowing larger structures than ever. The Pantheon's massive concrete dome remains the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world. Nearly 2,000 years later, Roman engineering was spectacular. Aqueducts brought fresh water from miles away. The Pont du Gard still stands in France. The Colosseum held 50,000 spectators. They built harbors, bridges, lighthouses, and public works on unprecedented scale. The empire stretched from Britain to Egypt, Spain to Mesopotamia, Rhine to Sahara. Under Emperor Trajan, 98 to 117 AD, Rome ruled over roughly 60 million people, possibly a quarter of the world's population. It was the largest empire anyone had ever seen. Rome itself may have held around 1 million residents. A marble giant of temples, baths, libraries, parks, and monuments. This was the empire's golden age, when Roman citizenship meant belonging to the greatest civilization on earth. But cracks were already forming. Emperors, wise and monstrous. Empire had one fatal weakness: no clear rules of succession. Emperors were made and unmade by the army, the Senate, or the Praetorian Guard. Some were exceptional. Trajan expanded Rome to its greatest extent. Hadrian edged the frontiers and built monuments like Hadrian's Wall. Marcus Aurelius, a philosopher emperor, tried to rule with reason, but others were disasters. Caligula descended into paranoia and was assassinated. Nero's reign ended in chaos after the Great Fire of 64 AD and brutal persecutions. Commodus, obsessed with gladiatorial spectacle, dragged Rome into humiliation and was killed by his own circle. After Nero, for emperors rose and fell in a single year. Instability was becoming Rome's new normal. The crisis of the 3rd century after Marcus Aurelius died in 180, the Pax Romana began to fade. By the 3rd century to 135 to 284, Rome nearly collapsed. In just 50 years, over 50 emperors came and went, most murdered. Enemies pressed the Rhine and Danube, while the Sassanid Persians struck from the east and even captured Emperor Valerian. The economy crumbled under constant war, inflation, and coin debasement. Plagues devastated cities. Parts of the empire broke away: the Gallic Empire in the west, and Palmyra under Queen Zenobia in the east. Rome looked finished, but it survived barely. Soldier emperors like Aurelian clawed the empire back together and even fortified the capital with new walls. By 284, the crisis eased, but Rome was permanently changed. Diocletian, Constantine, and Transformation Deity tried to stabilize Rome by dividing administration between East and West and creating the Tetrarchy. The system was imperfect, but the East-West split would endure. He also centralized power and launched the last major persecution of Christians. Then Constantine won the civil wars. In 313, the Edict of Milan legalized Christianity. In 330, he founded a new capital, Constantinople, closer to the wealthy eastern provinces and easier to defend. Rome was no longer the center of its own empire. The fall of the Western Empire fell from a convergence of crises, weaker finances, political chaos, and mounting pressure along the borders. The army increasingly relied on Germanic troops and commanders, while refugee migrations driven in part by the Huns reshaped the frontier. In 378, Rome suffered a major shock at Adrianople. In 410, the Visigoths sacked Rome. In 455, the Vandals did it again. And in 476, Odoacer deposed the last Western emperor, Romulus. Augustus. No final heroic battle. Just the end. The East and Rome's legacy, the Eastern Roman Empire, later called Byzantium, survived for another 1,000 years until 1453, and the West never truly escaped Rome's shadow. Roman law shaped modern legal systems. Latin shaped European languages. Roads, aqueducts, and architecture endured. And Roman political ideas influenced later republics and constitutions. Rome fell, but it never really died.